service oriented, which is going to help the residents, but it also helps us because we want to be customer service oriented, and I think that we want to make sure that we are all aligned. And so this Business and Community Services, which is the new name for planning and development, but it looks different because it does have building safety inspections underneath it now. What does that mean? That means that while Mike Ryder is the chief building official, and I don't have my builder's license, so it's not like I'm going to tell him something different, but I can make sure that when he is talking to a business owner, that it's in line with the Business Services Division, which is another column on this org chart that they have talked about with zoning or business licensing, and those things can be really coordinated. And so that's it's exciting to be able to say that we are trying to, again, our number one goal is to offer the best customer service we can to both residents and businesses, and we want people to say that it's actually getting better to do business with the city, and I think that we're on that very good positive trajectory. So yeah, so that's why the leftmost column of the org chart is building inspections, and so the numbers are in front of you. It is in the budget document. It's actually BSI is page. Do you want me to reference the budget document itself? BSI is on page 56, the Building Inspection Fund, and that is, so what does that mean? BSI, the building inspections, they self-fund through the fees that they bring in. So they are paid for out of this fund, the 249 fund. And so the numbers in front of you, you can see the wages and the fringe and operating. What does operating mean? I mean, it means everything from the tools and the equipment needed for our inspections, but also we have some of our the technology that we use for tracking all this different paperwork, and then the capital outlay. That is the line that Phil was talking about, which is the build out is a $2.3 million build out for the south building. And so I know that up there looks a little funny because it looks like it's, you know, if you do a total of those three lines, fiscal year 23, 24, 25, it looks like it's a, you know, $5 million build out. That is, it's not. It's a $2.3 million build out, and we just tried to represent the way that the dollars are going to be spent in what fiscal year. And as everybody knows, things sometimes take longer than what we planned, but we ultimately are we're very lucky to have the opportunity to renovate this building to become part of the mayor's one-stop shop vision, where someone can walk in and they want to open a business here in our community, and they have they feel like not only does it just the first impressions matter, that it looks modernized, it looks like it's a place that you want to invest in because you can trust that you're going to be part of a positive trajectory as a business owner. You also have all of the things, again, it's zoning, business licensing, which we are coordinating with the clerk's office to be able to have that function move over. Economic development, some of those tools and helpful things, and then coordinations with our building inspections. So that is this. Do you have any questions on that fund?
What is the forecasted fund balance for building inspections? Do we know? I'm sorry, my budget book got left in my office. I usually grab it. I just reached in and grabbed my bag.
So the fund balance numbers on page 56 are not, they're a little
wonky.
They're a little wonky, and the reason they're wonky is because of that capital outlay that's being carried over. So if you
All right,
look,
let me ask you this.
Yeah.
What was the beginning fund balance? I know is...
I can tell you what the fund balance is as of today.
Okay, what is it?
It's about $6.1 million.
Okay.
and that's represented if you look at again on page 56, under fiscal year 24 budget, you can kind of see that is kind of spread between the line that says capital outlay and then the line that says beginning balance. Those two numbers, you can kind of see, you know, even if it's the 4.9 beginning balance under fiscal year 24, and then you've got this 2 million proposed in 25 as a capital outlay. So you can kind of see how we were trying, because that is where the source of money is coming from for the build out.
Are you telling me I need to go to my office and get my budget book?
I don't know, I think we're live, or at least we're being recorded, and so for people, I know we have lots of dedicated citizens who are looking through this budget document, and I wanted to reference it so that way they can see where
Yeah.
these numbers are coming from.
And I have a folder that I normally grab, and I just grabbed my bag because
No,
I
you're
was
good.
running late. All right, so we do have plenty of fund balance to pay for the renovations,
Yes.
and that's great. All right, now how are unlicensed businesses going to be identified? Oh, well, we might want to do that in another spot.
Yeah, because as of now, I know that there's reference to the licensing division actually on page 31 in the budget that is in the clerk's office. And that reference, that function is going to transfer, but we also admittedly are instead of it feeling like it's just gonna be this kind of, this shopping block of, okay, everything stops and halts and then all, you know, craziness happens. That's not true. It's going to be transferred over. We're going to be making sure that we have personnel that's moving. We are improving the ordinance language itself to have more enforcement. And so it maybe doesn't all look necessarily, when you look at page 31 for the city clerk referencing licensing, it doesn't necessarily maybe look right now like it's gonna be moving over, but that is, and we're working together very closely to do that.
I opened up.
And so the plan for unlicensed businesses, the number one priority is life safety. That is imperative that we use the business licensing ordinance to focus on life safety. And so our top priority is going to be our small business specialist right now, which is within our business services division, is embarking on a pretty thorough inventory of number of our commercial corridors. Between that, as well as the businesses that we know exist with our assessing work, as well as our existing records in the licensing division, we're gonna cross-pollinate all of these different databases to try to create an up-to-date database, and then lay that over with the current building permit records that we have with BSA, with business or with building inspections, and then be able to start actually pulling out what businesses have not been pulled a permit or been inspected in the last 3 years that are high on life safety concerns. And so a good example is a hotel. If there's a hotel in the city of Flint and you don't have, you haven't been inspected because you haven't pulled a permit in the last few years, we're gonna come see you and make sure that you get an inspection to get your business license as a hotel. And that's life safety things like, are your strobes working, and your exit signs and your smoke alarms and your egress windows for exit, so then that way, God forbid, if there's a fire, anyone staying there can get out safely. And that is us being proactive and using the business license function to be able to do that. And so that'll be really great coordination between all of these different business databases and our existing building permit records. So it's gonna be a very exciting initiative that we are kicking off as we are transitioning the function from the clerk's office over to business services.
Yeah, that's a good tie-in, because I suspect that there are numerous unlicensed businesses. And there is no, although when we go to the state collecting our income tax, we'll catch some of those.
When the state starts collecting the income tax, we will have a better database, and we plan to use that as well.
Yeah, and then you can cross-check to make sure that people are collecting income tax and paying it as well.
Another tool that exists that's not necessarily something that we have to recreate, but rather we can use as a collaborative partnership is the state LARA, Licensing and Regulatory Affairs Department. They are the entity that licenses a lot of businesses that we don't need to be redundant for. But we do want to make sure that we are aware of which businesses that they license that are in Flint, and are those licenses current. And a good example is adult foster care homes with 6 or more adults. If you have 5 or less, it actually doesn't get licensed through Lara, and so that would be one that we would target here locally, because those 5 or less adults that are living in those homes we prioritize their life safety, while at the same time, ones that have 6 or more, those all get licensed through Lara, and we will make sure that, again, with all of our database overlays, and we are just leaning on Lara to share that information, which they've already said they will. Again, Tyler Bailey with Business Services has been in touch with them, and so that's another tool that we will be using with the state through Lara.
Okay. What page is the building inspection on? I downloaded the.
Yep, 56.
Okay, I hadn't gotten far enough. Of course, we're kind of going into licensing too, because you're all connected.
Absolutely. I'm going to speak a little bit to the next column on the org chart, if you want to go back to the org chart, Shay. And the reason why is because this is a bit of a column of people who provide some glue, even though they don't have their own page in the budget. I just wanted to make sure that that's understood. Operations. So what does that look like? I'll try to be pretty quick, but it merits talking about. So operations is the money, the managing the money that helps with all of these different operations or all of these different functions. And so first and foremost, we do have all of our grant money, which Phil referenced, the 279 fund, federal grants. We have that federal grants. There's a lot of different federal grants, and we can talk about that. One of those federal grants that I do want to call out is some of the ARPA money that we are overseeing, which is with external agencies. Those external agencies that are receiving allocations, we want to make sure that they spend the money properly, and that when the city gets audited in 2027, that we pass an audit. And so because of that, we are definitely have been ramping up capacity to properly staff, and that is the ability to then look at every page of their payment requests, so then that way we know that the dollars were spent properly, and maybe it's even above and beyond what we need to be doing, but since the Department of Treasury hasn't told us how they're going to audit us yet, we would rather be more prepared than less.
So the ARPA piece, and this is something I've meant to ask before, that's taking over some of the responsibilities of Ernst & Young.
Yeah, so it's kind of like it's going to be a partnership. The ARPA administrative staff that are embedded within the city to internal, that's going to work really with finance, with all those internal dollars, making sure that then the funds that are allocated to police and blight and even economic development, that when the city is the entity spending the money, that's the internal monies, and that's those two people will be with finance, the two external over here in business community services, and that's going to be the kind of the I'll say boots on the ground is a phrase people like, where communicating with the vendors and making sure that documentation is all there and the audit files are prepared. Ernst & Young is the kind of the go-between between the federal language and then giving us the green light that we are doing the right things when it comes to collecting beneficiary data, spending the money properly, and then the other piece that I think they're going to be able to be a part of is on the back end, is actually kind of if there's hiccups with any type of, like, let's just say that there's an agency that has received $1 million and they've spent 800,000 of it doing exactly what we thought, and then at the end they kind of want to, we need to change course a little bit. I think that's where kind of Ernst & Young's ability to in real time make sure that even as things change, because money getting spent to respond to community needs might look a little different in July of 26 than it does in February of 24, right? And so I think just being able to do some of those monitoring check-ins, this money still has 2.5 years of being spent. I know we have to have it all obligated, which means under contract. It does not mean resoluted, it means
Right.
under contract. We have to have all that done by December 31st of '24. There's another 2 years of expenditure time where the agencies can be spending, and so our embedded city staff that we are very appreciative for the council support on. That job was posted yesterday, one position title with 4 vacancies. Those people will be the ones who are spending time actually like looking at the timesheets of people whose agency time is being paid by this per se, while Ernst & Young's gonna be the one actually saying what the federal language can be interpreted as.
So originally, if I remember the proposal from Ernst & Young before, they were going to embed themselves here. They were going to have an online system, which we do not have, and that was part of the agreement, and people are asking for that, to see where the money is being spent. And we have not had that. I mean, I have had access to it via Shay, but it's wasn't up to date because it was, it's a historical point in time. And I'm not sharing that information because I feel that should come from the city and not from me, because I will get blasted for sharing it because it's me. And so I've decided not to, that needs to come from the administration as to how much money has actually been spent on some of these grants. So they were supposed to do that online, and we need to have that because that was part of their contract. But also they were the ones who were going to be doing the accounting and stuff like that. So in reality, their contract, their bid, is not being utilized to the fullest extent financially. It will not be. I want people to understand that is, because I've seen that. That is not happening. Am I correct, please?
No, I'm comfortable saying, I started last June, June 12th. I think I had a phone call, it was like June 18th with Ernst & Young, and my first response to, hi, hello, great to meet you, yeah, and I said, are you guys gonna be doing payment request processing? Is that really what you're gonna do? Are you gonna comb through a 90-page payment request from one of our 100 agencies that are gonna get dollars? And they said, no, we're not doing that, and I'm like, cool, well then we need staff who can do that, because I'm not going to let federal money get spent by our subcontractors and our subrecipients without someone who's putting an eye on every page, because that's our fiduciary responsibility.
Absolutely.
And so as soon as, again, and that's just my experience with federal money of like, what is the thankless work that no one appreciates? It's like the person who catches the one number that's off in the payment request, and therefore we caught that it should have been a 1 instead of a 9, and now we don't have to pay back $8,000 because that money got misspent. I mean, it matters.
It matters.
And I know that it's boring, but it's also the stuff that I appreciate my staff. They do. We have CD grant coordinators who do it for CDBG dollars. Every year, every day in, day out. They're on this. They're in the 3rd column. So it's the second from the right they're in the community services column. Those CD grant coordinators comb through our CDBG and home and ESG payment requests, similar to how these ARPA contract coordinators are going to be combing through the ARPA payment requests. And I appreciate those. Again, it's the boring stuff that no one wants to talk about, but it saves us from, in the future, being on the hook for paying back money because we don't, we didn't do everything right to prep for an audit.
I don't know if you knew this, but I was the grant accountant at Mott, so I'm familiar with grants, and I've also worked at other nonprofits where I was responsible for the grant reporting, so I get it. If you ask me what my specialty is, I'll tell you it's grants. So I'm looking at this, and I know that Phil and I have talked that accountants should be on finance, and this has an accounting coordinator under you. And that's one of the findings that Ernst & Young has, not Ernst & Young, our auditors have had for several years. And adding new positions that are not under finance is kind of not my thing.
I can speak to that. Emily and I work very closely, very well together. And I think one of the things I've been trying to do is provide a little bit more guidance than maybe has been provided in the past. And it seems to be working. I've been touring the different sites where the remote accounting staff is, and from what it sounds like, that doesn't happen very often. I'm learning more about what they do. I'm learning about one of the challenges we have is that while I think we have very good staff, there have been changes in what's considered gap for governmental accounting. I'm not sure all the different remote departments are aware of that. We've been working with that, and that's getting better. And I think we're not. I think it'll be hard for us to move everybody into finance. First of all, we don't have space. Second, they do other things, and I think the relationship that I have with Emily and her staff is very, very good. They've always been very responsive, and I don't have a problem with working with their staff. You know, that her staff was in our department yesterday afternoon. So.
Well, I have no problem with where they're located. Absolutely not. And that's not been the finding from Ryman. It's been that they don't report to you.
Okay.
And so when we add new staff, and I saw that posting yesterday, and I knew we were meeting today. So not having them report to you is going to be an audit finding, a continual audit finding. And you and I've talked about that. And as the job descriptions are being rewritten, are they not being rewritten to report to you? I don't care where they're located.
We have changed a couple of job descriptions to do that, yes.
Okay. Like I said, I don't care where they're located. That's up to you. But if they're doing accounting and they're affecting the general ledger, they need to report to you. And I 100% agree with Ryman on that. And I'm sure you do too,
Yeah.
to a degree. So I'm not happy with that part of your thing. I would rather see it. They can be housed with you. They can be dedicated to you. But if they're affecting the GL, they need to report to Phil. And actually, it's not just Phil, it's the CFO. Because how long will you be here? 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 1 year? If you might have, and Emily might get another job opportunity and leave, it's important that the position reports to where it should report rather than the people involved. It's the position. And that's why I love the fact that you guys work together, but this accounting position should go under Phil. And if you are directing the day-to-day and overall, because they affect the GL, and he's ultimately responsible to get the audit data in place, and if you're the supervisor and he's not, he has no control over that part of the piece.
Not-
Yeah. Well, the GL, I'm very jealous about that. I guard that carefully.
So you should.
If I see somebody make a mistake or doing something improper, I'll bring it to their attention. There have been a number of things where my goal is that we do everything according to GAAP.
As we should.
I sometimes think the history of the organization is because of all the troubles that we've had in the past. We have more of a focus on budget than we do on GAAP, and I think GAAP should be equally important as the budget. And we need to make sure that the financial statements that we produce on an interim basis are done on a GAAP basis. And I've been working with the different departments to make sure that happens. When I read contracts from Emily's group, I always make sure I read how that's going to affect the accounting system that we have to do, make sure that it is accounted properly.
So, yeah, I'm a dog with a bone on this. And I've spoken to the mayor. Ever since it came up the first time, since we've been council. So the audit that happened for 2021, yeah, that was one of the findings, and I went, what? The accountants don't report to the CFO? So I talked to Rob, I talked to the mayor, I talked to Clyde, and that didn't happen. The next year, I talked to Jane. She goes, well, give me time. And she was interim. She says, I can't do anything. I talked to the mayor. Give me time, give me time. I've given you time. And to have a new position, not follow the audit recommendation, is a no-go for me. Just saying.
Okay.
Like I said, I don't care ultimately what the actual reporting structure
Yeah.
is as to who manages the day-to-day nit-gritty stuff. It's who, because they affect the GL, they need to actually have, and that could get a little tricky, I know, but I don't care where they're housed.
Yeah.
I don't care if they're in finance. I don't care. It's who they report to. Okay? All right, so that's my thing on this one. The grant coordinator, I understand that the grant coordinator should report to you because they're not dealing with, it's just anything that affects the GL as to accounting, if they're gonna make journal entries, whatever.
Yeah. No, and I mean, I know that while it's grant fund, it's 279 fund journal entries, it's not general fund, it's still journal entries.
Right.
You know, and I get that.
It affects the
Or
GL.
same with, you know, it's not general fund that Mary works in. Mary Jarvis, you know, is with building inspection, so it's the 249, but still, yeah. So I understand I hear what you were saying, and it's good to know that I did not know that was an audit finding, sorry.
No.
Good to know.
I think that's one of the ones that's really stuck out in my head. Some of them are minor and easily corrected, but this has been going on this audit finding has been in there for a long time.
Yeah.
So I'd love to see one less audit finding.
That's my goal. I like to have I don't know if it's realistic, but my goal would be to have none.
Right, but that's almost unrealistic in this environment.
This is a very complex organization. It'd be very, very hard to achieve that, just because we have so many different entities and different grants and everything else going on. It's hard to achieve, but you gotta set high goals.
Yep. And this would be one that would please me, and I wouldn't bug it about it again. All right, so, who can read that up there? I can barely read it here.
Well, and so to finish that column, the second from the left, operations, the other, I guess, kind of function that is in there is environmental compliance, and that is crucial because all federal money that comes to the city that needs to have an environmental clearance goes through that team. And so even if it's a grant from the EPA that comes into the city, that isn't, you know, so HUD funds, everyone knows, HUD funds, you know, is the primary driver of a lot of the parts of this department.
Right.
But if it's a grant from the EPA or EGLE or MDOT or USDOT, or it doesn't matter, if it comes in and they require, because of federal compliance, and it's not a standard, we're gonna do a phase 1 baseline environmental assessment that we do before you build a building. It's a federal government environmental compliance. This is the team that does it for, we are the responsible entity for all parties across the city, or even if it is money that is going to come to us and then go to an agency. So like, even if Habitat is doing the rehab of the house, we have to get the address that they are going to do the work at, because it's with federal money, and clear it through this agency, this environmental compliance process. So I appreciate the work of that team, Deanna and Briante, and then we have a new CD grant coordinator who's kind of helping try to coordinate some of the data, the beneficiary data better, so he's there, John. But yeah, I mean, so definitely, and Deanna, I give her a lot of credit. She's actually been the primary person doing this environmental compliance work for this point for coming up in 8 years. And so we brought on Briante to help her, so that way they have 2 people doing it, because it's a lot of work, and also HUD wants to see there be like a check and balance, 2 different eyes on it. And it's you may ask, like, what kind of stuff are they looking for? I mean, they have to make sure that endangered species aren't affected by any type of work that has federal money. There's a bat that we have to be careful of in this part of town. I can't make this up, Judy. So it's everything.
There's a bat species?
There's a bat, there's an endangered bat species that we have to make sure we don't mess with in this part of the state. But also Native American, respect for Native American tribal grounds or burial grounds.
Right.
That's another one. That's a very important part of archaeological work. So it's a lot of different checks and balances that it's basically nobody knows what they do until if something goes wrong, it's on the front page of the newspaper. We don't want that. So, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So they have to inspect, so with the ARPA home repair monies?
Yes.
That has to go through them as well?
So ARPA, because it's through Department of Treasury, is not being treated with the same environmental requirements as all other federal money, which you might say that doesn't make sense, and I would say call the Treasury and tell them that.
And I say, thank God.
Yeah, well, so actually, yeah, so the ARPA funds do not have as heavy of environmental requirements as all other federal money. And so while, I'll just leave it at that.
So if somebody's, although they have to be removed properly, somebody has asbestos as part of their furnace and they're getting a new furnace as part of their home repair.
It is different if it is ARPA funded versus CDBG funded. That is a true statement.
Love it. But of course, we want to treat properly, and the agencies will have to treat it because they're licensed that way. All righty. All right, so that makes a lot of sense. I cannot find, I don't know if I got the right budget book. I took it off of the website and the FY25 proposed budget. Is that the right book? Because I'm not finding the pages even though I'm accounting a page for the, or maybe it's 3 pages for the title of pages.
We've been through a number of different versions, so I'm not sure what's actually posted versus where we are.
We need to make sure that the one we're working off is the
Okay.
one that's posted.
Yeah.
This is dated, it's not dated. So I don't know how we can tell the difference. But I can look at this one and page 32, so that'd be about 36. No, let's go back to 32 then. Okay, it's on page 38 on my PDF, but it just has one bid budget with, now cannabis compliance is here on this?
Yeah, so the cannabis compliance is definitely tied in with our zoning work, because the companies themselves can only be located in certain zones.
Right.
And so, which took a long time to decide that, and that was a long, arduous process with
Sure.
the zoning ordinance. But all that to say, we have a full-time cannabis compliance person, Montel, and he works hand in hand with our zoning coordinators. He also works hand in hand with our legal team, because a lot of it is such a important, it's very crucial that they have their own section of Michigan state law that they have to follow. And so I think with this budget document, I think he is listed as being housed here, and at the same time, Montel reports to the administration, not me, which is fine. He also, again, you will find him with my 2 zoning coordinators, or him with the lawyer that represents mostly a lot of the legal things, again, go through the Planning Commission or the ZBA, Zoning Board of Appeals. So, and Bill Kim has multiple staff who staff those different boards. So it's definitely, cannabis compliance is a team effort, but it's led by Montel. And I think that he does show up here for the sake of this document.
Does he show up in the mayor's budget as well?
I don't think so. I think that's the thing.
Because
He
they
sh-
have.
He has his own separate budget,
Yeah.
Oh, he's his own, just him.
right.
But then you'll see, again, and it's page 42 is the document I'm off of. It does have a row that says cannabis compliance.
Yeah, that's on page 39 of mine.
Okay, so yeah, so that is, he's listed there. Again, it's a big team effort. And it's kind of like he's housed here, but really his reporting is different, which would be, I think, maybe what I'm hearing is that some of my financial support staff would be housed within my budget, but still report to Phil, kind of thing. And we'll get there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll get there. But what my biggest concern is that we're not duplicating what's in the mayor's budget with what's in this budget.
Right.
And you're assuring me that that is not a
We
duplication?
absolutely will not be doing that.
Okay,
I've, the budget resolution's gonna look a little bit different because I'm gonna be working off of a pivot table just
Right.
to make sure that there's no double counting for anything.
yeah, and I know that you did this as pivot table.
Yeah.
Which,
Yeah.
I love the fact that you did these pivot tables, because it really does help. I know that some people might not understand them with the title row labels and stuff like that, but
I was just gonna say, we have now devolved into Microsoft Excel nerddom right here. I love it. I love it. For those of you watching at home, this is some advanced level Excel usage, pivot tables. I love it.
But Phil, which Microsoft product do you like the best for data?
Well, probably Access.
Me too. I need to get Access
Yeah.
see if we can get this on my computer so I can do my reports. Okay, so I get that. The other revenue, we don't have anything for 24 or 25. I don't know what those were. Now that I found I can look at the whole thing like this.
I don't exactly know what document's in front of you, Judy. I just kind of wanted to make the comment. You have, I don't know if you see under revenue, there's a phrase, charges for services rendered.
Yep,
So that's zoning versus licenses, permits, and franchise fees. That's gonna be cannabis. So you see how Phil and his team have really differentiated that?
Well, that's actually the state of Michigan.
Oh, there you go. So there.
it's GAP.
So, okay, and so I just wanted to make sure I called that out, and then if you look further down, there's that line that says cannabis compliance and planning, so it's separated for that type of the wage expenditure down there. So I just wanted to see, so you can see how it is separated.
Okay, so the charges for services rendered are what? Because I see
That's
you've only
zoning.
budgeted
Yeah.
60 for the next 2 years. I mean, I see our fees going down.
So we budgeted that we would have 60,000 in revenue instead of as much as we have. The reason for that is because there was so much movement with cannabis in the last few years, and we do see that that is going to decrease because there isn't as many cannabis companies trying to open. Now,
Right.
that might be all wrong. My hope is that we also are having more and more construction and more housing development, and that this number is way under projection. That if I do my job right, that's gonna be the case, but, yeah.
And I did speak with Communities First about Brown Funeral Home.
Good,
So
good.
maybe that'll happen down the pike, I don't know. Of course, that might be 5 years down the line. So that would be a nice development fee. All right, so,
Where do you want to be?
So if we want to move to the next column, it's the community services, which, and so that is led by Ashley
Ashley.
Harris. And so that's, you've got our CDBG, home, and ESG, which are HUD monies that people are pretty familiar with. There's a word entitlement in there. I just wanted to make a comment on what that means. It's a guaranteed allocation that the city of Flint has because we have more than 50,000 people. So
that's in the
it's,
budget book?
No, that's not in the budget book.
It's
When I
on the-
prepared
I-
the budget was prepared very similar to prior years, but we are planning to appropriate all grants this year, and so that will
Right.
be separate.
I'm looking at that, and I don't see the column that this
Yeah.
is not what we're talking about, where you're,
Yep, so
Yeah.
right here, the community services.
oh,
it's
I'm
the-
looking at the next,
Yep, so,
zoning coordinator, building license.
so look to the left of that. So that's.
Under Ashley here.
Under Deputy Director of Community Services, Ashley, and then underneath her, we've got CD program managers, home
Okay.
program manager, home art. So that's that column, and,
Okay.
Yep, and Kevin Miller, CD program, Community Development Program Manager, he also helps with the ESG, which is Emergency Solutions Grant for Homelessness Prevention. So the reason why the word entitlement is in the narrative is because we are guaranteed money every year from HUD because we have more than 50,000 people. It is tied to our population though, so because Flint's population has been decreasing, those annual allocations from HUD have decreased over the years. So it is imperative that we use them as effectively as possible, and make sure that not a dollar goes to waste. So just wanted to say, and that team, we did just meet timeliness, which is a big deal. Every year on May 2nd, HUD looks at how much CDBG money we have that has not been spent and drawn, that is kind of outstanding. And we met the requirement by over $1 million this year. So a big applaud to Ashley and her team and what that means is that we have grants that have been made to agencies, and those agencies, for whatever reason, haven't spent them. We then kind of turn up the heat and say, you need to spend these dollars, and then we need to, we pay you back, and then we draw the money. So it's all reimbursement based. And so anyway, so all of that is to say that that's the community services team. Choice neighborhoods are under that team as well. You'll see Makisha Loring as the Choice Neighborhood Implementation Manager. We are very excited to keep her. She was brought on to the city 2018 HUD-led hazard control grant. That grant was sunsetting this year, and so we were excited, and she chose to stay at the city. We love to see talent stay here. That's very good. And so she is overseeing the neighborhood implementation, which is $4.5 million of the $30 million implementation grant that is all being spent on investment in the neighborhood where Clark Commons new housing phases 1, 2, and 3 are being built. And so all of that work is happening now. Very exciting, and that grant was going to end this September. We got a 1-year extension, and so it will end next September, and everything will be wrapped up and done, and it's all going to be good. And in the meantime, we are applying for another choice implementation grant through this Northeast Flint planning process that I did mention last night at council.
Yeah, and the third ward.
So anyway, all that to say that, and then home ARP, the bottom, the very, very bottom of this column, Rod Slaughter, he was brought on to manage our home ARP funds. That was a one-time allocation of additional housing and supportive services dollars, given about $3.2 million to the city because of COVID. Because of, basically it was the home allocation tied in with CARES Act, ARPA stuff. And so that is.
What funding do
so
they?
that's its own fund. It's a home art fund.
I meant, what is that being spent on?
So the $3.2 million has a budget that my predecessor made right before she left and submitted to HUD. About $500,000 of it is allocated to be subbed out to agencies on supportive services for low-income people, tied in with housing. A lot of times that's a best practice you see around the country, is that there are certain individuals who, for health reasons, the best way to make sure that they stay healthy is to tie in their supportive services with their housing. And so that is about $500,000 of that.
It pays for salaries, or does it pay for
services? There is
examples?
There's a line item that is for administration and planning that can pay for salary, and that's about $500,000 as well. 1.8 million of it is for rental housing development, and so that can gap finance for rental housing.
So for renovations, et
Yep.
cetera.
And then that puts me at 2.8. The other 400,000 is for TBRA, tenant-based rental assistance, which will also be put out to bid. So Rod is putting together this RFP that will be put out for agencies to respond to, really concentrating on our agencies that serve the lowest income, most vulnerable people, and that is going to be our agencies that are part of our continuum of care, which is a group of agencies that make sure that we are providing services to help prevent homelessness. And so, yeah, TBRA is going to be a way for agencies to provide security deposit and first month's rent to help people get into safer rental situations, maybe more accessible. That's a problem right now with people with disabilities. The rentals available are not accessible if they have physical disabilities and they get into trouble. Their health is harmed, and so housing is a social determinant of health, and so that's part of what these dollars can be used on.
So these dollars,
And will be put out to bid in the next few weeks.
right, I'm just trying to think, if there's a disabled individual in a home that they own, would any of these dollars be used for that?
There's a $375,000 ARPA contract that, wait, 375 or 275?
275
275, that
with
Disability
Disability
Network.
Network.
And that is specifically for homeowners that
Right.
that need accessibility modifications.
But the home funds.
But wait, and I apologize.
Oh.
You guys added money to that. You added more money to Disability Network, so it's 675 now, I believe.
Right, the
So-
mayor added 500,
And then
right.
we are working on a $440,000 grant from MISTA that's not reflected here because we haven't signed it yet, for accessibility modifications for renters. So that's
Okay.
going to come in. And then this money is above and beyond those, and we don't know what agencies will be getting them because these haven't been put out to bid yet. And this would be for additional services like what you're talking about, in addition to the Disability Network, ARPA dollars, the MISTA funds that we still have to, again, solidify. This is more money for that.
So it's additional dollars for home repair, but for disabled individuals,
So
and rental repair.
yeah, I was gonna say,
Rental
none
net.
of them come out and say owner-occupied home repair, so I think it depends on what agencies submit to us.
Okay,
I will just, in terms of the home ARP, none of it calls out owner-occupied home repair, but it does call out supportive services or development of affordable rental. Those are the line items, and so we will see what agencies respond to our RFP.
okay. All right, I've not been clear on that, so I'm glad for that information. And I also want anybody who's listening to that, is that just because ARPA isn't funding 16 million, there are additional dollars from other grants that are going to agencies for the same purpose.
Absolutely.
And that's, because I think we're at close to 7 million in all funds,
Yeah.
in all grants,
And one of the things that we like to see with
if not more.
just, kind of a general principle of what we are trying to do, big picture. The American dream of owning your own home depends on that your home has value and that you can go to a bank if you need and get a home equity line of credit to make some of those renovations if you need, or perhaps you take some of the equity out to build, again, if you need a ramp, or if you need to put in a new roof, and then you can, kind of, you use it to make this big purchase, and you can, pay it back incrementally. And so one of the things that we see, and a lot of times people say, well, why do you care about new construction, Emily? Why does new construction matter? Because, we should just invest in current homes. We got to do it all.
Yes.
And one of the things that we like to see with new construction is that new construction, you get appraisers, and I'm not saying that appraisers are objective and fair all the time, but whatever, it's a system we
They
have to
know how
play
much
in.
the mortgage is for.
And so we have to get the appraisers to come in, and with new construction, whether it's rental housing or new construction but especially home ownership, if they can come in with new construction and then you see that they appraise a house, new houses that just got built in Carriagetown appraised for almost $190,000. That's a big deal. We're gonna get that to move north with, we've got another development on Fifth. Those I'm hoping appraised for over 200 grand. Metro is gonna be building homes in Met Hills. You guys did ARPA gap financing. And I think that, we want to do a brownfield plan in parts of North Flint and East Flint and South Flint that then help gap finance new construction, and you will see home values go up. In turn, existing homeowners can then go, and all of a sudden, their home that they bought for $60,000, that then now dropped to $10,000 because of the terrible recession. Now, all of a sudden, because of this new construction appraisal, their home has more value now, and that It doesn't feel good to just look at other new construction unless you can feel it yourself, I know that. This is the goal, is we want everyone out there who, you own your own home, we want you to actually see that your house value has kind of rebounded amidst the last 20 years of devastation.
You know, one of the things with the youth job training portion of that, what I envisioned, and I was disappointed with the grants requests that came in, was that they would take these youths and teach them a trade. ABC Youth, which is Active Boys in Christ, in my ward, they took an old school unit that the land bank thought should be demolished and totally redid the inside. It's a combination of youth job training and improving the neighborhood. And that's what I was hoping that we could get some organizations to do more of. And I don't think I saw a single, maybe one, that was not awarded, and we're not going to give money to the organization that did that. And it's all well and good to teach them being on time and a work ethic, but this would have taught them a trade that is desperately needed, because not everybody should go to college.
No, we need more people in the trades, so there's a need for that. And
So if we can encourage that in some way, somehow, that's what I want to do. But that would be a great way to turn in. I'm thinking of some of the houses in my ward that are still salvageable, and use some of these dollars to convert them into a home that people can buy, or a new home that might be ADA compliant, and for rental situations. That's what I would love to see. Okay, so we got lots of time, and it's just me here. I'm stating out loud some of my things.
You're okay.
that I've met.
I'll move to the final
Okay.
column of the org chart, which is the rightmost column, business services. So again, we commented on the mayor's vision for a one-stop shop. That's what this is, led by Tyler Bailey, Deputy Director of Business Services. So you'll see that you'll see 2 zoning coordinators, Brian and Max, and then the planner one, Dalton, with zoning. So the 3 of them have taken what was a list of zoning applications a year old that hadn't been touched, and are now processing zoning approvals in under 30 days. And I just give them a lot of credit. I think the mayor's calling me right now. It's kind of funny. Hope.
Doesn't he know where you are?
I know. I think I need to answer him.
Go ahead.
On the mic here.
Let me.
So I just give a lot of credit. I probably should have answered him and told him.
Probably
I'm actually
should have.
I'm in the budget hearing, Mayor. That would have been funny. Actually, let's see. This is kind of funny. Is it still here? Let's see.
You should call.
I know. I should call him and say,
Do it.
I'm in my budget hearing. You should come up here.
You should invite him.
Especially
Invite him
since it's just me.
Invite him up, more the merrier.
Let's see. Let's see. Oh, yeah, that was him. Sorry, Mayor. Let's see.
Tell me you're being grilled by me.
I am comfortable. Any questions from all 9 council members? We're all in this together.
What a great
We are, and we're.
But yeah, I give a lot of credit. I just wanted to say that I give a lot of credit to the zoning team. They've really worked hard to really catch us up and be leading our comprehensive plan update.
Is Roe involved anymore?
Not with our zoning. We actually were
Okay.
able to pivot that to. Hi, Mayor. I'm actually at my budget hearing right now. So I just missed your call, but yep.
You might want to turn your mic off.
Okay, sounds great. Thanks, Mayor. Bye. He says, tell him to be nice. So. Anyway, so that's zoning, and we have a comprehensive plan update. That's something I just want to comment on. The Imagine Flint comprehensive plan was adopted 10 years ago. It is state law that we do a review of that plan every 10 years. So that is happening. Our zoning team and Tyler worked really hard with the Planning Commission for about the last 8 months for them to officially issue a notice of intent to plan, and that has happened. So we are proceeding with that. We have a series of meetings in June. I'm going to do in all 9 wards to just kick off this 18-month process that is crucial because it helps inform where we are going, and that way, when this update happens, it's in tandem with Phil's 5 and 10-year financial budget projections. And like, you can't, there's the capital improvements plan, there's the comprehensive plan, there's our 5 to 10 year budget plan, and all of this stuff goes together. So that's really exciting. You'll see that there's 2 business licensing development techs on here, as we talked about earlier. That is going to be a function that moves from the clerk's office over to help increase enforcement and tie in with our building inspections and really focus on life safety. Small business specialist is on here, which appreciate Steve has really taken on our helping small businesses and with questions as well as special events. And then finally our corridor helping work, and this corridor improvement specialist really trying to focus on our commercial corridors in the neighborhoods. And we talked about that and how we got to really target certain corridors. And then finally, last but not least, this bottom of this column, economic development program manager focused on property disposition.
You just posted that,
and
right?
that's that was posted last week, and that is an ARPA, or 2 weeks ago. That's an ARPA funded position. We appreciate that, to help move properties that that the city owns and sell them, whether it's as side lots or to developers, or put them out for bid, or whatever that looks like. And all of those, everything I just said, that is, you're gonna see that that's the rest of what is on that pages 41 and 42 of the document, minus some of the specific funds, if we wanna talk about parks, which we can get to, which is under Ashley, or, oh yeah, and then the EDA revolving loan fund is under Tyler, and so we could talk to those, but yeah, that's the department.
Okay, so the economic development manager, that's going to be self-funded. That's the goal, right?
Yeah, we have that position funded through the end of '26 with
Right.
the ARPA funds. It's interesting because there's either there's enough additional work to keep that person on, / maybe have them funded through like Mott economic development capacity, or they have sold all of our land. They've disposed of all our land and we don't need them anymore. That'd be fun too, right? But no, I think I can see as the city is more proactive with tax reverted properties that go through tax foreclosure, and we want to be more proactive, not just let all of them go to the land bank. We want to actually take some of them in and then frankly manage a quicker, get the ones that can be salvaged out the door to people who, just like you said, can renovate them and live in them, and it's a much more a proactive process, and that would self-fund the position.
So, in regards to that, who is going to be going around? Is that going to be a function of you to determine which properties we're going to keep?
It's a combination of, I know that the list comes in to Phil and then our city assessor, Stacy, which we appreciate her team. They're very.
Stacy reports to you, right, Phil?
And
Yeah, Stacy reports me. There's a team effort for all of this.
yeah, so they're very on top of it. When they get those lists, I know that they look at the values and they look at, how things are trending. So that information, and then, yes, there will be work actually out in the field, like looking at the condition. And then I think there's also, again, our building inspectors, a lot of them, they have a lot of hats, and they're gonna be imperative to be able to say, yep, this one we need to condemn, this one we don't need to condemn. That's important.
Okay, so they'll be working hand in hand, obviously, so that we know which ones need to be condemned. And if they're condemned, would we give them to the land bank, or are we gonna keep them?
Those
we
I
know?
don't think.
Part of it depends on where they're located.
Yeah.
There is some property that the city might want to acquire, in which case we will. There's others that the land bank might be able to do a better job.
Thanks to Tyler, who told me about this, I went on the land bank's portal online, and the only property that's owned by the city in my ward is like easements type things. Little slivers of land that is like in the street or something. It was hard to determine exactly what they were, and I didn't go look, but they weren't any homes. They weren't any business property. They were just they're not, I don't even think they're adjacent to property that is usable, like for a neighbor to purchase. Very, very, very little. So, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. At least nobody can complain about city-owned and rag on me, but the land bank ones, of course, I get hit with all the time. I'm waiting for Candace. She had a meeting at 1.
I did want to circle back a little bit
Okay.
about what, she talked about the master plan.
Okay.
And I think that's something that the community and the elected officials need to pay close attention to. If you want to do something big, you're not going to do it overnight. You're not going to do it next year. You have to plan for it, and you have to you put it in the master plan, and then 4 or 5 years from now, you'll figure out how you're going to get it. You get all the pieces in place so you can do it. You can't do that quickly. So I think it's important that all the elected officials pay attention to that. I think it's important our citizens pay attention to that. So-
Yeah, and when it gets developed, it's important that we as council be involved,
Right.
you know?
Yeah, it's how we envision the future for the community. And oftentimes, there are a lot of things that have to happen that you don't anticipate, like maybe you had to move a sewer line or enlarge a water main or something in order for what you envision to do, and you have to plan it step by step so you can get to what the council wants to do, be the ultimate goal. So it's an important step.
So, when, in September, we had a presidential candidate come, and I took him through, down to Washington School. And the man, I met him again 5 months later, and he remembered the school. And he remembered. And he asked me, how come I don't get as many complaints as I maybe should? Not that I can do much with them, because most of them are land bank properties.
Yeah.
Or the school district.
Yeah, or the school district, yeah. Well, at least Washington School is down.
Yeah.
And I said they've become numb. They're so used to it that they become numb. And they expect it. They expect it out of our city. They expect it out of the land bank. And that shouldn't be. I mean, when I was campaigning, I cried. Every night I came home and I cried when I was campaigning and knocking on doors on that side of the street. And I'm trying so hard. I was one of the first people to be involved in the process of determining if we were going to give the land bank $16 million. When Mike Freeman said there were more houses to be torn down in the 3rd and 4th ward than any other ward, but 1st and 2nd we're going to start first, I went in that office and I cried. My residents deserve better. And the more money we can get into my ward to clean it up, give them good housing, take care of the slumlords, the better for that area. It has deteriorated so bad. Dave Peachy, who comes here, you stand on his porch and you see every other corner but his has a basement only. And next to it, there's basements only. 3 properties down, it was a dump site. The land bank finally cleared it up after 7 months and 3 or 4 times of Dave Peachy and myself talking to them together. That's what we've got to stop. That's what we've got to help, because my residents deserve better, and so do the rest of the residents in the city. And any dollars that we can go to improve their lives, I'm going to support. Whether it's a conservative program or a liberal program, my job is to my constituents. And I want to get as much money over there as we can. Just saying. Okay. Where's my Kleenex? That's usually. All right. Let me see. I just got a text. Maybe it was Candace. No. Okay. So I'm in favor of moving as much money to help take care of the city as possible, especially economic development, because on the fourth ward, you're not gonna get economic development with the properties looking like it is. You're just not. And, I've begged so many people to look at the fourth ward. If we can get, I don't know how many homes were purchased from that 190 that went to the went to the investor who bought I don't know how many of those homes were in the fourth ward.
I'm not sure. It was, the bundle had, I think it was 210 total in the entire county, and 180 of them were in the city. But I'm not sure how, ward by ward, how many.
How are those inspections going?
So I think that they are, they've started. We've not done inspections on all 180, but the owner is at least responsive and trying to figure out which ones I think they have to, sadly, that the people, I think they're trying to figure out exactly, and we want to try to protect as much as possible and not have there be evictions, but at the same time, I think that is the kind of the process.
Again, and there's a problem where if evictions happen, where are they gonna go? We do not have the housing.
So, I mean, I say this to everybody I can. If you are in a house, that, whether you lost a tax foreclosure or you've moved in and there are issues that the landlord needs to be doing, taking care of, and you are paying rent and they're not taking care of them, like, go to Legal Services of Eastern Michigan and set up an escrow account and start putting your rent into escrow and have a declaration of the things that the landlord needs to do, because that will protect you from eviction. To do it that way instead of not just, you can't just stop paying rent. 'Cause
Right.
That's not going to help.
Right now, if they want to put something in escrow, that has to go through a legal process, right?
I don't know if it's a legal process. You just have to state it the right way with your letter. As long as your letter has the correct language about here are the things that are wrong with the house that are your responsibility. I have paid my rent into this account at whatever bank. I mean, if you do it the right way, that's your tenant's rights.
Okay. I mean, I'm just thinking of these other funds and where money can go to help the residents. Because I know that general fund, we don't have anything that we can do. And that's what we're talking about basically here is general fund. And now we're off into grants. But, yeah. Okay. Other than moving I mean, if the money comes out of your account, that's fine. I just want them to report. I mean, wherever you guys want the money to come out of. Like, I know that the person at the water plant, we still have an accountant at the water plant, right?
Yes.
And because they are working on that fund, they should be funded from that fund.
That's correct.
But general fund, maybe that's because you're responsible for it.
Well, actually, I'm responsible for the finances of all the funds.
Right.
And so it doesn't matter whether it's water or general fund.
Yeah, but we got to
I think
allocate it
same.
to the appropriate department, right?
We allocate the cost based on where they work, but in terms of responsibility, that still rests for the finance department.
Right. Shay, you do grants, right?
Yes.
So your part of your salary is proportionate to grants, basically probably an administrative overall overhead percentage.
Well, I mean, I'm paid out of 101.
I'm not,
Yeah, I'm paid straight out of general fund.
Straight out of general fund? I know when I was grant coordinator, it was part of they took part of my salary. Just as a general overhead, I was included in the overhead
Some of
costs.
your time cannot be billed to ARPA.
Yeah.
My,
We wrote you into that.
we set that up.
my last position was coordinator position, and it was many different grants. But when I took this position, it was fully 101.
Well, that might be an option too.
Emily is correct that recently the city council did take action where a portion of Jay's salary will now be grant funded.
Okay.
Oh, didn't know that.
Just-
The resolution that council approved for the ARPA contract coordinators also had funds for partial of your time, part of Roy's time, Lauren, Chris, all the people who are kind of helping with ARPA that have been billing that time to general fund. Yeah, so anyway. Before we are done here, I don't know what page number you have, but it's page 49, the Parks and Rec Fund. I just
Oh,
wanted to
yeah.
make sure we touched on that really quick.
I wanted to talk about that one.
Just because we do, there is an issue, and I just wanted to bring it to your attention.
All right, let me look for it. Let me do a search for parks.
And again, for all of the many dedicated residents watching at home, this is page 49 of the document. The Parks and Rec Fund is
46 online.
46 online, it's the 208 fund.
Oh, nope, it's 49, but why is it page 46 of my PDF? Okay, that's why, I just caught that. All right, 49, okay, go ahead.
So, if you look at it, there is, so property taxes, there's a millage, so a certain mill rate of everyone's property taxes helps support the parks. It's not enough money to maintain much of anything. What does that mean? That means that we don't even have one full-time person that this help covers. So when people ask me about my Parks and Rec employees, I giggle a little bit and I say, well, I have part of one person that's paid out of the Parks millage, and then there is 5% of Mary Jarvis's time. Mary is an all-star, and mostly she focuses on building safety, but does oversee parks as well.
5%.
And so 5% of her time.
Okay.
Yep. And then Gavin Bodner is our parks planner. He does a great job, and 80% of his time is covered with the millage. Although I think that's going to be decreasing to closer to maybe 50%, because the other 50% we're going to cover with CDBG, because he is going to be managing some CDBG contracts, and his time can be covered with activity delivery. So anyway, all that to say, how do our parks get mowed and the trash get picked up? We have a grant from the CS Mott Foundation for $620,000 that we are very appreciative for, and we have a parks partnership agreement with the Genesee County Parks, and so the parks are mowed every week, and the trash is picked up by Genesee County Park staff that are, and it's paid through this Mott Foundation grant, and that's, it's really improved the maintenance of the parks. This year, they're also going to be taking over the reservations. If you want to reserve for a pavilion at a park for a birthday party or a family reunion, we love it, love to see it. You can now do it online. Well, pretty soon. That transition's happening now, because the parks agreement was signed last week by the mayor. Had gone through council approved, so that's transitioning, so you can go online, you can reserve it, you can pay online. Again, that's the big transition that's happening with reservations for parks. Special events still have to go through Tyler Bailey's team, Steve, our small business specialist. We have a special events application for big events. But if you got 50 people showing up for your birthday party at a pavilion at a park, you can do it through the parks reservations.
And how much does that cost?
$30.
$30 for the
And you might ask, what does
pavilion.
that and why does this all matter?
Because it costs.
Well, but here's the thing: by doing it through Genesee County Parks, when you show up that day, because your event is 4 p.m. on a Saturday, or let's just say 4 p.m. on a Friday, your trash will be picked up, your lawn will be mowed. Or even if you want to do it at noon on a Thursday, what we want to make sure is that you have an event at a park, that the lawnmower is not showing up during your event, that the trash isn't scheduled to be picked up the next day, and so there's trash everywhere. You deserve better as a resident, and so by having that coordination, and that's the kind of coordination and collaboration we're trying to do more of, is to just be efficient, so that way we can make sure that when you reserve a pavilion at a park, it's mowed and the trash is picked up. And so we're really excited about that. And that isn't even covered on this Parks Fund, because that's all outside money.
That's all outside.
And so what does this Parks Fund cover? We mow traffic triangles and medians. So there's a big chunk of that, and city cemeteries. So that mowing comes out of here, which is not part of the parks mowing.
Because it's not a park.
We pay lighting consumers at some of our parks that have lights. We got to pay the consumers' bills. And then we pay for alarms at some of our community centers. So Haskell, Burston, McKinley, we pay for alarm systems. So that way, if they are locked up and there's an issue, an alarm will go off, middle of the night kind of thing, to alert the law enforcement. So
If they show up.
yeah, and I think having the alarms matter, because it helps.
It helps deter.
A direct call, yeah. Anyway, so that's all to say that's what that covers. there's an issue because there's normally a transfer in of general fund.
We included that.
Okay, so that's not in here. And
Okay.
see how there's a big gap, and
Oh,
so then we,
That's for the current year.
I'm just saying that
Right.
because we don't have a transfer, we're
Yeah.
going into the hole.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we can fix that, but,
Well,
Yeah,
let's,
we have a plan.
okay.
you have plans to
We
do
don't-
Bill
that?
has a plan, I like it, because I
you'll-
made
you'll-
sure I circled that, because anybody who looks at this can
Yeah.
say, we're doing okay until this lack of transfer in, and then the end balance goes in the hole, and I wanted to fix that.
You remember when I said that some things were missed last year? That's one of the things that was missed. One of the things that we try to do is, there's some indirect costs, there's some cost, overhead costs related to this, that we have to treat all the funds the same in how we calculate it. The general fund tries to match that so that all the money that the voters voted for the parks really goes for the parks, not for the overhead. That transfer was missed in last year's budget prep. That's been included in this.
So that transfer, we'll be getting that
Yeah,
as
we'll
a
be getting that, yes.
resolution to transfer that money in, and that'll help the next year's.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That will solve a lot of that,
Yeah,
okay.
'cause I just wanted to make sure that the numbers people see on page 49, it's going to be changed slightly with
Yes,
this fix
that's
that
correct.
Phil's bringing, and
Yeah.
we really appreciate that. I know that people are really excited about, there's about $1.4 million of ARPA funds that council has approved for parks investments. What does that mean? It's bollards to keep people from driving in our parks and tearing
Putting
up
them in
grass.
right now at Longway.
Good. There's parking lot refinishing, there's electrical, fixing electrical at pavilions, or removing old electrical equipment that is outdated and dangerous. So Gavin Bodner, our parks planners, and Ashley Harris have been really pushing those through the bid process, getting it in front of council, the contract process. Now it's actually happening. And of course, what's the response? We want more. We want more bollards. It just costs money. So I don't know where the money's coming from, but you can see that it's not like we have a ton of money in our parks fund. But I know that that's just a thing I wanted to mention of, if we want more, it's not necessarily gonna come out of our parks fund, so maybe that's a conversation with some funders. If we want more bollards, if we find them successful in protecting our parks. Another thing I wanted to mention, we do have two pretty beautiful ball stadiums, one at Whaley Park, one at Broome Park, that we have a lot of softball and baseball tournaments. The lights are starting to fall apart, and that is our role, not the leasee of, not the association that runs those tournaments. We really should be investing in those lights. So that's just, again, I'm just kind of putting that out there
And then
as.
we've got the rugby field at Longway.
At Longway, the rugby field. So there's always more investment we can make in our parks. I think that, I will say that the staff in my department are dedicated and have the capacity to process, to put things out, to get scopes, to put things out for bid, to write grants about these. I mean, we can do all of it. It's just kind of the sense of kind of what are the priorities? Are we prioritizing ones that have leagues? Are we prioritizing ones that have teams? Are we prioritizing ones that have pavilions? Are we prioritizing ones, one in each ward? I think that this is the kind of strategic conversation around our public spaces that I hope that as we all come together more and more as leaders here, we can continue to have those strategic conversations.
I will say that I got a phone call telling me that they were putting the bollards in at Longway Park, and I drove by there. Those are very nicely made. They're not cement. They are wood with carved pretty tops. And I think they're 6x6 or 8x8 posts. that are going-
Ashley Harris picked them out, so it's her excellent taste.
Ashley, they're beautiful. Do you know what the fence is what the fenced-in area is at Longway? I got asked that too, and I have no idea. There is a fence that is, I don't know if it's mesh or just around the chain link that's green and you can't see in it. And the question was, what is it? Thank you, because I have no idea. But I think that investing in our parks helps everybody. And I don't know, I mean, you know, we had an issue with Longway last 2 weeks ago. not Longway, excuse me, Kersley Park, and that they did a protest. And I want to make sure that people know that you have to do a reservation. And that money goes to, the reservation money goes to the,
Yeah, so if you make a parks reservation, because you're gonna do a small event, again,
Family
50,
gathering.
less than 100 people, no more than that, but even, I say 50 to 100. Then you would make a parks reservation. Currently, that's a phone call to Mary Jarvis. Very quickly here, that's transferring to Genesee County Parks through their process. If you want to do an event that's going to have vendors, that's going to have, even if it's a free event, but it has vendors, it's going to have hundreds of people attending, you have to go through our special events permit or application process. And I know that it's not free. There are fees attached to it. Do the process. You only have to pay $50 for the application fee, and then we will internally figure out what do you actually owe. Are you a nonprofit? Does that help you not have to pay? Or are there other things that are, since you're not charging, if you're charging money to get in, it's a different fee than if you're not charging. So I think there's misconceptions that everybody's just going to be charged thousands of dollars to do this. That's not true. And I ask that you just do the process. And what does that mean? That means you have a plan for security, a plan for trash, a plan for electricity, a plan for making sure that no one else is using the park or road that you're going to close down the same day as you. It's all of those things that make sure that then the event the day of goes as smooth as possible. And so, yeah.
Where did those funds go?
So all of that, the parks funds that for the parks go actually back in, that stays in the parks money, and we can spend that. And then the special events money is actually, I think most of that ends up supporting the street closure and the other.
Because the street closures, you need police, right?
There's police and our streets staff too.
So that would be the other revenue in the Parks and Recreation Fund.
So I don't actually know where that ends up. I'll get back to you on that. I don't know.
None of that is going to the county?
The county has an administrative rate for handling this, but it's not.
It's minimal?
It's very minimum because they already have it set up for their county parks.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's all the questions that I have, I think. I appreciate you. I'm sorry that more people didn't come. I'm sorry I was late.
Just quickly, I wanted to comment, there is a streetlights fund that's not under me. However, the one thing that is under our department for streetlights funds that we are going to you'll see in the next month, is there are decorative streetlights that are over by Powers and Miller Road and Kettering. And
I was going to say, isn't some in Carriagetown?
maybe in Carriagetown along University Avenue, I think. Anyway, all of that was done in the past with other dollars or grant money or something. I don't even know. It doesn't matter. All I know is that there are funds in the decorative or in the streetlights fund, and Lauren, our procurement person, has I'm working with her, and we'll be putting forth a contract to be able to make those updates. A number of council members have asked me when those are going to get fixed. So that contract with the entity that we worked with before to install them, we will be getting another contract with them to actually fix the decorative lighting, because that's not Consumers. Consumers does all the other street lights in town, but those decorative lights are our responsibility, and that is happening, and Lauren is working, helping me with that. So just, I don't do anything else with street lights, but just wanted to comment on that.
Doggone it. There's money in ARPA for streetlights.
It's not under me, so
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay, because I have not heard a word on that. And let me see if I can open up the budget and see.
I haven't either.
Yeah, I don't know.
What was that?
There's enough under me.
I said I haven't heard either on that
Yeah.
on that particular issue.
Let me look.
While you're doing that, Judy, on
Yeah.
page 63 is the position summary document, full-time authorized positions. I've had people say, wow, Emily, your department jumped from 35 to 45, that's so much. It's all grant funded. None of these are general fund positions. These are all grant funded positions, most of which are CDBG or choice, which are grant funds that existed before I got here, and these jobs could have been filled before me. I just have been able to fill them, and I appreciate HR's working with me. So thank you, Eddie Smith and his team. Nicole and Deidre are really helpful, and we've been able to fill these positions. And I hope that people feel like they're getting more customer service and help because we have more people to do the work. And so that it is a big jump, but it's a jump that most of which was really, it was a lack of people before. And now I think we are pretty much fully staffed, and it's really exciting.
Yeah, it just shows 45 positions.
Right, and so, but then the year before, fiscal year '24 amended was 35.
Okay.
So I know that that's a big jump, and I appreciate everyone's support.
But you can look at it and it tells you exactly who's funding, how many positions are being funded by
Yeah. And,
only 8.45 are being funded by general fund.
Yeah, and you know, and again, that's maybe a small, I'm fully funded with general fund, I know that, but everybody else, I mean, maybe it's a 10% of Mike Ryder's time, but I doubt it, you know, I think I mostly.
But even your salary should be in the part of the overhead.
You know, and again, you'll see that, and I think that even some of these numbers, HUD grants, I think that's 7.75, I think that's probably closer to 12 or 13 now, because we've been adding, I mean, so just, again, we definitely are having a bigger presence, but it's more, the reason is because we are trying to really do more that needs to be done, and has frankly needed to be done for years.
There's 2.8 million for adding 500 street lights, replace 2,000 lights with LED bulbs.
I mean, that should
Is
be a
that in the
partnership.
public safety section, I believe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it should probably be a partnership with consumers, I think, because they own those streetlights, so.
It was part of the mayor's original budget, and we discussed moving some of that money, and Liddell, because, you know, Liddell and I developed this along with some other partners, but it was felt that for safety reasons, we needed to leave that alone.
Okay.
But, yeah, I mean, I know that's not, I'm just saying there's 2.8 million out there for
Make
that.
a note, find out more about what's happening with that.
Yeah, because that needs to get started, I would think. If we have to expend it by 2016, I don't know why nothing's happened on that.
We'll,
That
and
needs
if,
to get
and
obligated.
if we need to put it under contract with consumers, we should start that process now.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. I think that's all. Let me,
I just have one other comment before we.
fine, have another comment.
I just want to point out that two of the unsung heroes are in the back of the room.
I see Ashley.
Emily's done a great job, but she's
Ashley, and then
back.
Carissa Dotson, who is again, over top of all our operations, finance grants.
Okay.
So yes.
Nice to meet you,
yes.
Chris. I've met Ashley. I know we met in the hall, but I didn't know who you were.
They both do a great job. They're good, hard workers.
Wonderful, wonderful. I think, Emily, I think what you've done with this department in the last year, and not having last minute, you have to pass it now, is very much appreciated. We don't like last minute. We like plans. We like to know in ahead, because there should be no last minute we don't know. And
Yep. No,
by
we
you.
have emergency responders in other departments. That's not my department. So we are here to plan and develop and be customer service oriented, and that doesn't have to be last minute. So, thank you.
I know that I was hearing a lot of complaints from business owners prior, but there's a new business that I saw today was open. I think it opened on Monday, but I hadn't driven by it when it was during the daylight. And auto repair shop that sells tires and stuff. And yeah, they had some problems with some inspections, but they got it done. And I'm telling you that I don't think it took them 4 months to get that thing open.
Yes. Glad to
So
hear it.
that was great, you know, and I appreciate that. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and tell Candace not to bother coming, and you guys can have the rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I can go home and weed whack.
I haven't gotten to it yet. I've been working on audit stuff. Audit? Over audit? I'm not sure about that. Yeah.
talked to Jason, yesterday. He's got one more person on board working on our stuff. We have
Thank
for
you,
the non-
Joanne.
So they're working on it now?
Yes,
Thank God.
yeah.